Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture, today joined by Scott Tailford.
Hello.
To bring you some tasty stories straight from the I don't know where it comes from anymore.
Whatever
that is.
From
the internet. But yeah, we've got some really interesting stories. The first thing we're going to talk about today, though, is about the MCU and about the X-Men, because obviously, you know, Marvel have a big task on their hands bringing the X-Men back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe because, you know, divisive as though they may have been, the Fox X-Men movies were a big cultural force for about, you know, 2 decades, and there were definitely positives, and there were certainly negatives. One of the best things about them, though, was obviously Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen as Professor X and Magneto, respectively. I really felt they nailed those given roles, and, you know, from the first film all the way up until Days of Future Past, and then eventually, you know, Logan. I thought they were both spectacular.
And on and off screen. Like, they couldn't have a better bromance.
Yeah.
Possibly the defining bromance of the last 19 years.
I absolutely love them. But yeah, moving on, we've kind of got an interesting story developing from Full Circle Cinema, and that alleges that Kevin Feige is considering people of color to play Magneto and Professor X, respectively, when they introduce the X-Men. Now, other people have also mentioned that, given Giancarlo Esposito has apparently met with Marvel, that he would be a really, really good Magneto.
Yes. If you've seen Breaking Bad, then you know that he can absolutely dominate a screen. He's one of the best villains.
Yes.
That's such a shout. I didn't know that was going to be on
Yeah.
That's such a shout. Anything about getting sort of people from different races to play characters always reminds me of Michael Clarke Duncan in Daredevil, and what kind of great presence he had on screen. So I'm game for it if it fits the character.
And obviously it's interesting as well because anyone who knows the X-Men will know the civil rights allegory has been very, very strong. Not since they first were introduced. It's kind of been a myth, you know, that Stan Lee said that he based Magneto and Professor X as on Malcolm X and MLK respectively. That was a little bit of the myth. The civil rights stuff didn't really come in until Chris Claremont took a hold of the book in the 1980s with stuff like God Loves, Man Kills, where you really have Professor X kind of taking that more pacificistic approach. There's a specific kind of pacifism where you are willing to use violence if it's necessary.
Cool.
And then you have obviously the more radical Magneto who, you know, engages in, you know, these sort of radical acts in order to attain, you know, originally it was mutant supremacy, and then we've kind of gone back and forth over the years. It's a little bit muddy, but yeah, it's interesting. I find it really, really cool. I have no idea who I'd want to play Professor X because I have Denzel Washington reserved for Blue Marvel. If you know who Blue Marvel is, he'd be really, really cool. I want to age hero thing.
A bold Denzel.
Yes.
Especially going right up against Giancarlo would be brilliant.
Yeah.
That might be my shout. I especially love the Giancarlo casting though, just in theory. Like, I'm a huge fan of him in Breaking Bad, so anything with him is great. Plus, that lets them sort of, you know, you have that whole thing where it's like you have really defining roles, like you said. You have McKellen, you have Stewart. It's a nice way to sort of give it like a fresh start, and there's so much more you can do, like you said, with the material.
And obviously, you know, Marvel have to factor in the linearity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, because one of the, you know, the inextricable things about Magneto is that he's linked to the Second World War and the Holocaust. And obviously, now that we are in 2019, it'd be very difficult to have someone who is a, you know, a physically able, you know, character going up against people. So I guess there are, given humanity isn't short of horrific things, there are definitely different ways you can bring that in, you know. The constant atrocities and persecution is basically the order of the thing in the past dozens and dozens and dozens of centuries. But yeah, it's really interesting to see where they could actually go from this. I'm curious to see what they do, and I'm still kind of apprehensive over, you know, the Russo's comments about maybe introducing the X-Men hero by hero before leading to the big team thing. And the whole thing is that the team is what makes them interesting. But yeah, I wonder how they're going to go about introducing this. I know Simon's potentially optioned then doing a multiverse thing, but I'm curious to see whether they have a thing where mutants have been kind of kept under wraps for a while, or whether they're going to introduce them as the mutant gene is happening right in this instant.
What was the name of that mist stuff you told me?
Oh, the Terrigen Mist.
Yeah, that looked like a way for them to do it. I guess it's like if they want to do the whole they've been here all along, and then you can just introduce them kind of Spidey style, where it's like they're fully formed and we'll just keep going.
Because my only worry is that if you have it as like they're just coming out now, is that kind of takes a little bit away from Wolverine's appeal, you know, as this aged warrior that's been going through the centuries. But yeah, the X-Men are still the thing I'm most excited about for Marvel going forward. Because I'm in a huge X-Men mood at the moment. If you're familiar with What Culture Comics, Powers of X and Powers of 10 and House of X has been rebooting the X-Men for Marvel for the past few months now, and it's really good. But yeah, moving on from the X-Men to something that I'm sure will be equally as interesting as Scott.
Well, this isn't as potentially good for the fan. Well, this isn't as exciting, I would say. But South Park's coming to Amazon Prime, which is a nice little thing. But it's weird the way that this has the way that this has happened. It's Friday.
We got in there in the end.
We got there in the end. So there's like 23 seasons of South Park at the minute. They're in the middle of their season 23 or whatever it is at the minute. Season 22, the one that ended last year, was the one that they'd ended by directly just taking aim at big old Jeff Bezos, portrayed him as a big old alien with a massive head who just abused his workers and everything.
I can see that.
Yeah. And so the thing, when it's now, you know, the show's going to be on Amazon Prime, hilariously, they've bought all the seasons apart from season 22, which is the one that includes the episodes where Big Bad Bezos is being portrayed as a big bad. Although you can still purchase the episodes separately if you really want to see them.
So Amazon are making you pay for the honor of having the piss taken out of them?
Yeah, a little bit. But if you get your Prime subscription, you can watch everything from season 1 to 21, but you can't watch season 22. At least not yet. Maybe it's going to come in the future. But I just thought that was a weird little, like a little sort of self-aware
thing.
It's
so pathetic.
It might, if it's intentional.
Like, you know, Fox, the evil mega corporation that they were, when they had The Simpsons, one of the big clauses that The Simpsons writers inserted was that if we're going to be exclusive to you, you have to let us rip the piss out of you every now and then. And obviously they did that because, I guess Rupert Murdoch has a tiny little sense of humility about him. But yeah,
Big Bad Bezos has got alien ships to run.
He's literally Donald Pleasance in the first few James Bond films, isn't he?
So the thing that's alongside this is that Netflix also came out and said that they were purchasing some South Park episodes to put on their service, but they also said content licensing is a strange and wonderful world, and they were only able to secure season 1 and then 18 through 21, but not season 22 either, all the new episodes. They also said that alongside that, they're going to have top episodes selected by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and a handful of critically acclaimed episodes from the other previous seasons. Basically, it's whatever they can manage to put the money on.
So Amazon still has all of it, though?
Amazon has all of it available on Prime, apart from season 22. Netflix has season 1 and then seasons 18 to 21 with a selection of episodes in the middle somewhere that they said they're going to tweet to follow up on. It's literally going to be them securing stuff and being like, this week it's this.
I don't even care about South Park, but that's made my brain just implode itself.
I'm curious to see how much because they said they're going to have episodes chosen by the creators, so I'm kind of curious what they pick as their like greatest hits from the past kind of thing. That could be kind of curious for fans or whatever. But yeah, as like a general sort of like rights snafu, it seems that Prime's got the vast majority of it, but big old Bezos didn't want all of it. So,
the fact that that's made it all the way up to Lord Jeff himself, he's just there mulling a brandy, looking evil, just being like, you think you can mock me? I'll pay for your
I'll pretend your season never existed.
Oh, he's awful. But yeah, anyway, moving on to this next story that we have, and that's regarding J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, because if you've been staying tuned to the J.J. Abrams Bad Robot thing, you've known for a while now that he's been having discussions with Warner Brothers to actually, have an exclusivity deal, and that deal has actually passed through overnight with his wife, Katie McGrath. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter. Apparently the deal is worth 250 million smackaroos. That's my way of saying dollars.
It's a lot of,
and it marks the first time that Abrams has had both his film and TV deals under the same roof. The deal will run until 2024, will include video games and digital content. And this final quote from the article is that it's still to be determined is whether Abrams will have the opportunity to pursue feature film directing jobs for studios other than Warner Brothers. Those sources do stress that Abrams will honour pre-existing commitments to his former feature home Paramount and previously announced deals covering Star Wars. Also unclear is whether Warner Media landed an investment stake in Bad Robot, though multiple sources say that's a distinct possibility.
I love J.J. Abrams, but I do wish he would finish a story. I'm very curious to see what episode 9 is like, because man is known for setting things in motion, brilliant things, lovely things, things I adore, like The Lost Show, me and all the other 5 of you that love Lost, and he never knows how to end stuff. He always leaves the project, he always leaves it wide open, and he's literally gone on record for saying that he doesn't finish stuff. He likes setting things in motion, creating a mystery box, and then leaving it to someone else.
The most surprising thing to me about this is that Paramount is still going, because every time I hear something about Paramount, it's that something horrendous is happening. Like, oh God, there was the Star Trek stuff that's all going kablooey at the moment. And that's,
I mean, I think in terms of what JJ can bring to the table, at least he's a known name. At least he's someone that people rally around. At least, in terms of the properties that he sort of got off the ground or the sort of stories that he tells. I do love going on the old JJ train. It's just that final car's never really there. So like him securing more deals like this is brilliant, especially in the game realm. But it does make me curious as to how much they've just sort of sat him down and said, but we want a full project, right? You can't leave. You can't leave again.
I mean, obviously he might be a little bit biased, but I think the video game stuff sounds like the most interesting thing coming out of that, because I'd be very curious to see how he'd actually go about. I'm always very fascinated when filmmakers actually come in and approach that medium, because you either get a wheelman with Vin Diesel, or you have kind of
Guillermo del Toro kind of with PT. I mean, something like the gaming industry at the minute, considering how rife it is with microtransactions, all these different things, all these unfinished practices, it fits in pretty perfectly. He can do the beginning of a game and then leave and then let someone else patch it for the rest of time.
I love to see this cynicism, but anyway, Scott, what is the next
Let me tell you more news after I've woken up the phone that I'm reading from.
There we go.
So anyway, Game of Thrones. I don't know if you haven't seen it, but I have.
This cultural moment has completely passed me by.
You missed it, and the whole time it was on, I was like, you're missing out, you're missing out.
I have like an inbuilt hipster complex when it comes to these things. I get automatically off-put and anxious when people are really into a thing.
It's missed out on
the
Rick and
MCU, which I was there for at the beginning. But anyway, carry on.
So yeah, this thing, if you missed out on Game of Thrones or you didn't watch it, you probably didn't miss much because it's kind of known as it ending in a big old ball of flames. But the way that they're going to go forward with it is that they've commissioned up to 5 prequels so far. That's the thing that's sort of on the table. One that was already confirmed was something set, it's like 10,000 years ago, delving into the whole history of the first men. None of this will mean anything to you, but it will to you. The whole backstory of the world, how it's sort of set up, all the different things with the different dynasties, how they sort of got set up for the world that then became the show that we saw, for the last few years. The newest piece of information, though, is that one of these prequels is going to center on the Targaryen dynasty, which is the book that George Martin has just finished and put out, or he's going to be putting out in November, which is called Fire and Blood, which that deals with the ancestors of Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington's characters. You've heard of Khaleesi?
I know who they are. I know Kit Harington looks at the screen and looks sad all the time.
Him, Jon Snow, maybe we'll find out why he's so sad. They're going to delve into all the ancestors of those two characters because they're both Targaryens, so they're going to delve into the bloodline of those people, which was the big revelation from the last 2 seasons.
And as someone who knows nothing about Game of Thrones, I'm assuming they're all going to have sex with each other.
Oh yeah, I mean they're probably having sex right now, but then that's what you do when you're putting the scripts together. But in terms of this thing, it seems that they're going to flesh out. The way that I'm viewing these whole prequel things is that they're looking to plug the gaps, let's say, of the final season. Because DB Weiss and David Benioff are obviously off doing Star Wars now. So in terms of the hands of the show, it can be handed off to different people, different showrunners, different ways to sort of make the overall feel of Game of Thrones maybe feel more complete. Because there were a lot of holes in the final season. But in terms of this, they can sort of plug stuff in terms of what wasn't answered, the history of the people that went before, the Targaryens, the White Walkers. There are so many things that we thought were going to get answered in the final season, and it kind of makes financial, horrible business sense to then spin it off into a whole bunch of separate seasons and do it that way.
Not to do my best Tommy Lee Jones fugitive impression, but I don't care. But anyway, moving on to one final story before we leave, because I had to get this in there because it's so great and I'm going to have to bow to my Disney overlords any second. Now, Disney Plus is actually going to include all the Marvel animated cartoon shows from the 90s and early 2000s. So I'm going to binge watch the X-Men cartoon and the Spider-Man cartoon, and then maybe a little bit of the Fantastic Four cartoon, even though it was really bad. It does have that bit where Ghost Rider Penance Dares Galactus. It's really, really cool. And then also the underrated dark horse of the X-Men cartoons, X-Men Evolution, which is just great.
Are the original X-Men ones going to be on there?
The
and then the original Spider-Man show, the original Fox show. Yeah. If anyone has maybe grown up after those shows were actually on the air, if you haven't gone back and watched them, those original animated shows are brilliant. Like Batman the Animated Series, obviously DC, is such a thing that's held up so much. But the Spidey show is brilliant. I grew up on that. I want to watch it again.
There you go.
I loved it.
Let us know what you thought of these stories down in the comments below. What do you think of the X-Men news? Are you kind of curious to see how Marvel introduced the X-Men in Phase 5? Because there are so many different ways to do it, and it's really interesting. Also the Game of Thrones prequel, I have no idea.
Can Game of Thrones be saved?
There we go. Lead with that question in the comments below. And also J.J. Abrams' big deal with Warner Brothers. Are you excited to see more stuff from Bad Robot? Obviously they have so many interesting projects that have happened in the past. And then finally also the Disney Plus cartoon stuff, which
Spider-Man all the way.
Really cool. Yeah. Also be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and head back over to whatculture.com where you can find more news, lists, and articles like this every day. You can follow me at social media at Runes Things, and you can follow Scott at
I'm at /LP89, all one word.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.